This
sections for the
conference will now be
participants.
recorded.
It related with various areas of decision making, and participants, even though they may not have strong background related with the operations management, they can able to understand the concept of application. Then I am inviting Dr. Krishnanand sir, professor in mechanical engineering, NIT Warangal. Sir has vast experience in the field of industrial engineering and operation management areas. He carried out many research projects sanctioned by Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Human Resources Development, and All India Council for Technical Education. And he has guided many PhDs for the students who worked under him. And he delivered lectures at abroad also, and he carried out the projects sanctioned by the agencies from abroad like United Kingdom, Thailand, Australia, New Zealand, and USA. Now I am welcoming Dr. Krishnanand sir to deliver his keynote address. Thank you, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
A very good morning to you all. I'm happy to interact with all of you. I think you are coming from various colleges. See, like the beauty of human innovation is that in spite of all the COVID kind of situation, we are still progressing through some means. It may not be as good as in a normal circumstances, but at least we are making an attempt to interact. And in fact, like this situation has also helped us to own certain skill set. Like for example, after 30 years, I'm now learning all these new technologies and how to prepare and put the materials in a learning management system. So right now we are putting all the learning materials in our own proprietary learning management system, Moodle. So this everything has to be taken, instead of cursing the situation, we try to overcome and and we will come in a better flying colors. So that should be the spirit of the thing, and I think Chhatrapati Shivaji Institute of Technology is doing a good job by coming with this kind of workshop. See, they're not keeping quiet, right? So instead of cursing the situation, see how you can use this as an opportunity to develop and take others also as part of this development process by involving all. And I should thank the Atal program, like particularly Sahasra Buddhi, who is sitting at the AICTE. He is a wonderful man, and he has come up with this innovative idea of putting the latest topics in the minds of the our academic colleagues. In fact, recently we also conducted 2 programs on Atal platform, that is 3D printing. I was one of the coordinators. But anyway, let me at the outset I should thank Dr. K. Sridhar and Dr. Santosh Kumar Sharma, who are the coordinators, and I should also thank management for giving me this opportunity. Now coming to the topic, optimization techniques in OM. This is again my bread and butter, in the sense, like I have been teaching management in NIT Warangal for the last 30 years. So I teach supply chain management, I teach project management. So I teach production planning and control. So in fact, I should thank K. Sridhar for giving me this opportunity to again interact with you people. Like to come Coming to the history of these optimization techniques, I think as per my knowledge, the first optimization technique that was used in operations management was EOQ model, invented by uh, F.W. Harris in 1915. That is the starting point of how we can apply mathematical model into optimizing production operations. So that is a breakthrough. Later, in fact, that EOQ model was later popularized by Wilson, and so it used to be called as Wilson formula. But actually, the foundation, the people thought like in dealing with industrial operations, F.W. Harris has seen the opportunity that we can use mathematical models to optimize the production operations, particularly inventory management. So anyway, that foundation, after 100 years, we have come back to a stage where we are using genetic algorithms and other particle swarm optimization. So many, anyway, you are going to learn all these latest optimization simulation techniques like Monte Carlo. I'm happy that the coordinators have included Monte Carlo, AHP, GA, and then ANN and facility location techniques, and then all these are part of OM, right? So uh, actually, only one thing you have to keep in mind while applying optimization techniques is you have to first of all understand the situation. See, for example, one example I would like to share here is people after invention of EOQ model, people have done a lot of PhD on EOQ model by relaxing certain assumptions of EOQ model. Like instead of assuming demand to be constant rate, they assumed probabilistic, then uncertainty. Then they went on inventing new additions to it, like P system of inventory control, Q system of inventory control. You know, they did. But finally, there was an interesting philosopher in operations management by the name Eliyahu Goldratt. I don't know how many of you are aware of it. Eliyahu Goldratt, who is the inventor of OPT, this is also in optimized production technology. This was used in Israeli, and he came with this. He, for the first time, shown the flaw of implementing EOQ model. He said, like, even though the particular ordering cost, when we are estimating or setup cost, that has to be in conjunction with whether that particular setup cost are you how you are calculating, because setup cost is a function of whether that particular resource is a bottleneck resource or not. So simply blindly applying EOQ model is not good enough. You should understand the entire ecosystem, like what he has for the first time shown what is the like where people are going wrong in implementing EOQ model. And in fact, another great person who shown the flaw of implementing EOQ model in traditional inventory management is Joseph Ehrlich, the man who came up with that computerized inventory management called MRP. So, like with the MRP, the foundation laid by Joseph Ehrlich in the form of MRP, later became a very big industry, like in the form of MRP led to CRP, CRP to HRP, then finally they said like ERP, and that is where like SAP kind of people are making a lot of money by coming with a integrated operations management software. Where like so that means like what is, so we should understand our, whatever we are applying application techniques, you should understand in its context. So we should not end up blindly using those optimization techniques. Is it fit to solve that? Yeah, or is that problem is fit into the overall scheme of the entire operations management for that particular enterprise? So in a way, like, so we, with this few introductory remarks, uh, the time given is only 5 to 10 minutes. So I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to interact with you. I wish the organizer the very best of luck, and hope you'll all add a lot of knowledge in this during 5-day workshop, and see, and you continue to keep the tempo, because after 10 days, if you don't look at this subject again, you are back to square normal. So you should keep the tempo and keep updating yourself in this, in the various techniques. So choose one of 2 or 3 techniques which you feel comfortable, and then work on it, and try to see whether you can contribute in some way to the already existing knowledge. So with this closing remarks, I take leave of you, and I once again I thank Dr. Sridhar and Dr. Santosh Kumar Sharma for giving this opportunity. Thank you, Anand.
Thank you, sir. Professor Krishnanand sir, thank you very much for your valuable suggestions to the participants. And we have highlighted the significance of operations research, its applications in operations management, and you guided us to learn about the origin of operations research, what optimization concepts were introduced in the industry from the beginning. Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable suggestions to the participants also to carry out their research work. Thank you for sharing your valuable time, sir. Hope we will have the fruitful interactions in coming future also. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. I can leave now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank
you. Now we'll start the section 1, sir. Now Santosh sir will...
So we can start our session now, sir. We can start with session number 1. I think the sir has already arrived.
Good morning to all of you.
Welcome to Dr. Mahesh, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome to Dr. Mahesh, sir. Sir is Associate Professor in Government College of Engineering, Goa, and his specialization is related with industrial engineering. He has a good academic experience. He held many positions in the institute, and his achievements are process improvement related to bottlenecks and significant improvements in productivity in Goa Auto Accessories Limited. And he designed and implemented training programs on human resources development over 300 industries. And he trained over 300 industry people related with network techniques for project management. And he is chairman of Indian Institute of Industrial Engineering, IIIE Goa chapter. His area of interests are related with industrial engineering, work system design, operations management, Six Sigma management, management and control. And he published many research papers. Today we are very lucky to have an eminent person like Dr. Mahesh sir to address the first section and operations management and applications. Welcome, sir. Please start your section, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sridhara and Dr. Sharma, and welcome to this session, all the participants and the people who are present here. Let me share my presentation with you. Are you all able to see my presentation? Hello,
Hello, please share, sir.
am I
No,
audible?
sir, it's not visible. It's not.
Not
Audible,
visible.
sir. You are audible, sir.
Can you see my presentation?
Please share the file,
No,
sir.
sir, we cannot see the presentation, sir.
Yeah, I'm sharing the presentation. Hello.
Yes, sir.
It is not yet visible, sir.
I am trying it. Are you able to see this?
No, sir.
Hello. Yeah, please hold on.
So no, sir, we cannot see the presentation.
Yeah, please hold on. There is a screen now. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Click
Yes,
on the
sir.
screen, sir. Then screen sharing will be
I think
started.
you have not enabled me. So I'm not able to.
Okay. Let me check, sir.
नहीं ते म्हणतात join होतो.
So now check, please, sir.
आता बारीक कसं करायचं हे?
Yes, now it is visible, sir.
Now it's visible.
Yeah, now it is visible, sir. Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Screen is visible, sir. You start, sir.
So welcome to this program, and I'm welcoming you from Goa College of Engineering, Goa. I can see more than 50 participants are there. And I'm not exactly aware regarding what is the category from which people are joining here. But I'm told that most of the people, they are faculty members in different technical institutions. And in addition, there are research scholars who are a part of this program. And the program will go for 5 days, wherein different optimization techniques will be discussed. This is that way the inaugural session. So I'll be giving you an overview of operations management and the applications of operations management. So we'll discuss about the scope and applications of operations management. Since the program is about optimization techniques, I'll try to get you into some fundamental concepts of what optimization is and how certain applications are done better with the help of optimization technique. We'll make a small beginning trying to understand what operations management is. Professor Sharma, I think there is an echo. Am I audible? I'm getting an echo back.
No, sir, your voice is audible, sir. It is
Yes,
clear.
sir. Yes, sir, you are audible.
I'm
Yes,
getting
sir,
an
you are
echo of
audible,
my
but
own
yes,
voice.
of course, sir, there is an echo.
Sorry, slide is visible.
Yes, slide is visible, sir. You can switch on the presentation mode so that we can see it enlarged one. Yes, sir. Now it's enlarged one.
Okay. So any organization will have 3 fundamental basic functions. One is finance, other one is operations, and the third one is marketing. For today's discussion, we'll be interested in the operations part of it. these three functions are that way overlapping. And when we speak about operations, we'll find some references to finance, some references to marketing, where our thrust will be mainly on operations management. When we discuss about operations management, we are focused on certain processes which are used for transformation to deliver goods and services. So we give inputs in the form of management inputs, different resources like man, material, machines, information, and value addition is done in our process here to give the outputs in the form of products and services. From whatever we deliver to the customer, we take a feedback from the customer, and we have a control mechanism with continuous feedback to the process again, and the feedback going to our inputs. As per the feedback what we get, we may change our inputs to get optimal outputs. This is fundamentally the process which is used in operations management. Hello.
Hello, audio is clear, sir. Audio is clear, sir. Continue, sir.
Yeah. I am continuously getting a echo from backside. Whatever I am saying, the same thing is getting repeated here.
Sir, don't bother about it, sir. You continue, sir.
Okay. Operations management is the management of systems or processes that create goods and services, or only goods or only services. So these are various topics which will be covered under this particular thing: operations management, demand forecasting, facilities location, facilities layout, line balancing, linear programming, inventory management, aggregate planning, sequencing and scheduling, project management, simulation, and there are many optimization techniques which will come in the part of a discussion. Whenever we talk about optimization, essentially we convert a real life situation into models. For example, when we are talking about inventory, the physical scenario will be there, but what we do is that particular scenario in the industry, we try and convert it into models. Usually they are mathematical models.
If you want, I will share the link.
Yes. Hello.
Hello, continue, sir.
Yes. So the models are physical or mathematical. We are interested in the mathematical models. We convert the inventory model, for example, into a mathematical model. And those mathematical models can be either static or dynamic. Static models are that way less challenging. They are very commonly used in industries, but they may not give you the optimal results. So those static models, if we are able to solve analytically, it becomes an analytical problem. If it is not possible, sometimes we go for numerical approach. Similarly, if the mathematical models are dynamic, in such cases, we either go for analytical approach or numerical approach. If you are going with analytical approach, we get closed bound solutions. If analytical solutions, closed bound solutions are not available, we go for numerical approach. And in this case, it leads to system simulation, which has become very popular of late. So many times what will happen is we are not able to solve, get simple solutions to problems in the form of closed bound solutions. And whenever situations are modeled into mathematical models, which are dynamic in nature, and numerical techniques are required to be used, system simulation becomes a powerful tool. So this particular slide, what I'm showing, will be using for different cases. Now let us use it for analytical case, wherein closed bound solutions are available. So what I'll do is I'll go a little off into the sequence of the presentation which is given here, and I will take one case wherein we'll be able to understand how a mathematical static solution can lead to analytical solutions. I'll just come back. So in the inauguration part, our guest mentioned about inventory management, and he spoke some quality statements he made about economic order quantity model. So I'll make a reference to economic order quantity model, and we'll understand how analytical closed-bound solutions are available in certain cases. So in inventory management, what we do is, this is a procurement cycle. So generally what we do is, we have some quantity Qmax here, and we go on consuming this material, and we receive fresh lot when the quantity becomes 0. For doing that, we place an order at reorder point here, and the stock goes back to Q maximum. Since it takes some time TP, lead time is required for the supplier to supply. So based on the lead time, we decide what is the reorder point and place the order when we are already having some stock in hand. And this cycle continues. This is basically a procurement cycle. And in doing this particular thing, we have a concern of optimizing our procurement. We want to keep our total cost to minimum. I'll take a simple example. Suppose we are purchasing a particular item. We are talking about a single item being purchased. In such cases, we have two major components which add to the total cost. One is inventory carrying cost. Because we are having some quantity Qmax, which goes on reducing up to 0. So we have a range from 0 to Qmax, and that is the inventory we have to hold, and doesn't come free. Holding that inventory will cost us, and that is converted into inventory carrying cost. It will depend upon the average inventory what we hold. If maximum inventory is Qmax and minimum is 0, we take the average as Q by 2, which is reflected here, Q by 2, and we multiply that by inventory holding cost per unit per period. If we consider 1 year as the period, then the cost of holding one item for 1 year is CH. So if we multiply CH with average inventory Q by 2, that gives us the inventory carrying cost. Now, there is another component which goes to the total cost, which is procurement cost. Suppose we are procuring only once a year, then the ordering cost per order, CP, that is our total cost of ordering. But usually we may not purchase in single lot. We may decide to purchase on several occasions. So in that case, the number of orders what we place, that will affect the total procurement cost. So our procurement cost is number of orders into procurement cost per order. So this becomes our procurement cost. If we add these two, that will give us the total inventory cost. So now what we do is, I'll get into this. So we have written expressions for inventory carrying cost and procurement cost. If we look at the expressions, inventory carrying cost is directly proportional to Q, quantity, the quantity for which we are placing an order. So it is linear. If you see the red line over there, that is indicating inventory holding cost. If we look at procurement cost, Q is at the denominator. So we'll find out procurement cost is not linear, it is non-linear, and it goes on decreasing as the quantity increases. As the quantity increases, the number of orders per year will reduce and our procurement cost will come down. So these are the two costs which we have to add, procurement cost and inventory holding cost. We are not trying to minimize either inventory holding cost or procurement cost. The sum total is required to be optimized. It has to be brought to minimum. So what we do is we write the expression for total cost, which is procurement cost plus inventory holding cost. And this is the total cost. So we want to minimize this total cost. Since the variable is quantity Q, we differentiate this expression with respect to quantity and equate to 0 to get the best quantity. And it comes to this expression, Q is equal to square root of 2D Cp by Ch. This is an optimal solution. So the moment we place an order for Q is equal to this quantity, it will lead to economic order quantity. It will lead to economics. That means our total cost will be minimum. Now we have handled one situation which is faced by all the industries. All the industries are associated with purchasing of various items. We have simplified the model into purchasing one single item. For that item, we want to minimize the total cost. What we have done is that situation we have converted into a mathematical model. The mathematical model is about total cost. Total cost is equal to procurement cost plus inventory holding cost. That is our mathematical model. That we have differentiated with respect to the variable quantity Q, and we have got an expression for Q, which we have called as Q star economic order quantity. All of us have seen this model earlier. I have picked up a very simple model because it comes from the area of our knowledge. All of us know about this. Now, since this is an expression which is a closed bound solution, we directly get the best solution. That means we know how much quantity we should order every time we are placing an order. Now, I'll take a pause here and wait for your feedback, whether the model is okay. I think all of you have come across this kind of model. So maybe 1 or 2 responses, whether you are okay. Are you able, am I audible? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Audio clear, sir. Audio, video, both are clear.
Both are clear. So now,
slides also.
Yeah, if any of the participants would comment on whether the model is understood. What I expected is this is a simple model. Hello? Dr. Venkatesh. No, I hope I am reaching you all. What we have done is we have taken one real life situation. We have converted that into a mathematical model. This is a mathematical model, total cost model. And we have analytically tackled it to get the outcome of our interest, which is Q star. This leads to minimum total cost. So we are saving on money there. So this is a simple approach wherein the mathematical model can be handled analytically. So now I'll just show you what I was trying to give the message. So we have modeled the situation into a mathematical one, and it is a static model, and analytically we have solved the problem. So this is one of the ways of doing things. This is a simple situation, but in real life, those situations, either if they are made simple by mathematical modeling, reality may be different.
Sir, we are not getting voice, sir.
In this situation, what we have assumed is this rate at which we are consuming the material, it is constant. In reality, it may not be like that. In fact, many a times we'll find that this rate at which we are consuming the material, it goes on changing. It is probabilistic. Sometimes we may consume more, sometimes we may consume less. While, like for example, we are manufacturing a particular item, and we are talking about the raw material which is required for that particular item. Now, suppose there is a power failure, or there is absenteeism because of which we are not running a particular shift, then the consumption of that material in that shift will be reduced. So in that case, we'll find that the slope of this curve, slope of this line will become gradual. On the contrary, suppose we are running an additional shift because there is a more demand. Suppose normally we are operating in single shift. On a particular day, suppose we go into a second shift. In that case, we'll consume faster. In that case, the slope of this line will be steeper. So in such cases, we'll find that the slope of the line is not fixed like what it is shown here. So in such cases, what may happen is we may either require the material faster if you have consumed faster, like what it is shown in the second triangle here. You can see the black line. It is indicating that we have consumed faster. We have placed an order here at reorder point, assuming that the material would be available at this point. But what has happened is we have consumed faster, because of which we may run out into a stock out situation. So these dynamics come into play here. And whenever dynamics come into play, that the static model will not work. So whenever these consumption rates what are shown, in this case, the black line which is showing, this actually may not be very straight like this. It may be having normal distribution, or it may be little random this thing which cannot be captured. So our job as industrial engineers is to capture the randomness in that and see what is the underlying distribution which can be fitted to it. And if that is not possible, we'll have to go for simulation. Let us see which are the two or three situations wherein say that randomness comes into play. I've shown one situation wherein the rate of consumption has been changed. Here from this particular red line, the rate of consumption has been increased here. So this can lead to a dangerous situation wherein say we are in stock out position. So this has happened because of rate of consumption, which we have assumed at fixed, but actually it is probabilistic. Similarly, there is another opportunity wherein say situations can go bad. This is the time between reorder point and the point of receiving the order. That time is called as lead time. We are assuming that the supplier will supply in 1 week's time, suppose. And under that assumption, we have placed an order with him 1 week in advance. In reality, what may happen is he may supply a little earlier or he may supply a little later. So by chance, suppose he is supplying little later, that means 1 day late, then we are having a situation of stock out for 1 day. So this TP, what we have assumed as fixed, 1 week in this case. In reality, it may not be 1 week. In reality, it may be less than 1 week or it may be more than 1 week. If it is less than 1 week, then what happens is our stock will go more than the Q maximum what we have shown here. It may put pressure on our storage systems. If our storage systems are not enough, then we'll run into trouble. And by chance, suppose he's supplying late. In that case, we may run into a stock out situation and we may lose some orders. So in real life, whatever simple model we have presented earlier, and we are claiming that we are having an optimal solution. Yes, on paper, that mathematical solution is optimal. In reality, there may be deviations. So in such cases, we need to get into the probabilistic approach or the dynamic modeling, which helps us get into close to real life optimal solutions. So I'll get your attention back to the model what we have followed. We said that inventory model, we have converted into mathematical model which is static and got the optimal analytical solution. In reality, we said it may not be static, it may be dynamic. These dynamics we are trying to address by doing some mathematical approaches, statistics and other things, wherein that randomness we are trying to capture by certain models. So then the problem becomes analytical. So we can still solve it. Sometimes what happens is these dynamics cannot be captured with those statistical approaches, and the numerical approach what we need to take, we'll have to get into system simulation. So there are a large number of approaches which are available with system simulation. And if I have a look at your timetable, which has been nicely drafted, there are a large number of approaches like fuzzy logic will be there, and genetic algorithm will be used, and colony optimization, simulated annealing. So these kind of approaches can be used in such situations. So I'll take a small pause for your reactions on this, whether you are okay with what I've said. I'll once again make a point that I have narrated to you some inventory model, and with mathematical approach, we are simplifying it and getting an optimal solution. And in reality, it may not be that. So we are trying to get into simulation wherever required, whenever there is dynamics in the situation. So those people who are associated with supply chain management, or maybe purchase in different organizations, or those who are teaching this particular subject, will realize that what we are teaching or what we are practicing, we are in very good mental this thing saying that we are having a optimal solution. But in reality, it may be something different. That is the point I'm trying to make. Am I okay with you all?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now, is the pace all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'll take one more example. I'd like to take one more example for optimization. And this is another situation, say, wherein we are trying to tackle a problem by using linear programming. And whenever we are trying to do that, example of a product mix, we either go by graphical method or simplex method. I will demonstrate my point with the help of one of the models. Let us take an example of a product mix that we are producing two different products, X and Y. And there are some machines what we are using for that. So these are the products X and Y. And we have a choice of how much to produce of X and how much of Y. So we are trying to optimize our profits in this. We have certain capacity constraints that there are two machines which are required for production, A and B. So machine A is having a constraint of 12 hours. Machine B is available for only 16 hours. So these are our constraints. Similarly, product A and product X and product Y, if we try to see, then the profits are product X is giving us 10 rupees profit per unit. Y is giving us a profit of 30 rupees per unit. So naturally, we may feel that we have to produce more of Y and less of X. But there are other things, the resources which are consumed. So X will require only 4 units of time on machine A, and will require 8 hours per unit on machine B. Similarly, Y will require 6 hours on machine A and 4 hours on machine B. So these are the constraints what we are having. We are having limited resources, but we want to optimize our profits. Our profit will be what profit we get from X and what profit we get from Y, that will be added, and that will be our total profit. We are not looking at maximizing profit from X or Y. We are trying to maximize the total profit from X as well as Y. So this is a perfect scenario wherein if we are able to convert these constraints into linear constraints, and our objective function, in this case maximizing profit, that also can be modeled as linear function. In that case, this becomes a perfect example for linear programming. So let's see how it appears. So we are having an objective of maximizing our profit, which is 10x plus 30y. So 10 is unit profit for number of X what we produce, and 30 per unit for Y. So 30 into Y. So this is profit from X, this is profit from Y. If we add, we get the total profit. We want to maximize that. That is our objective. But we cannot go on producing X and Y. There are constraints because of limited availability of resource. So we'll write down the constraints. The first constraint is about machine A. So maximum it can have 4 into X plus 6 into Y. That is the total time consumed. That should be less than or equal to 12. So 12 hours are available on machine A. So this is the constraint which is representing limited time available on machine A. Similarly, machine B will have a constraint of 16 hours. So we'll write down constraint for machine B. This is the constraint for machine B. And then there are some, we put the same scenario into standard form. And in the standard form, we add some slack variables and other things. Right now, we are not interested in all that. But I'll show you the situation. Same mathematical situation what we have expressed here. If I try to depict it graphically, then X and Y should be greater than 0. So X should be greater than 0. Y should be greater than 0. So we should be operating in the first quadrant here. Then I'll put the first constraint here, constraint of machine B less than or equal to 16. Similarly, constraint for machine A. So we have shown all the constraints. X should be greater than 0, Y should be greater than 0, and these two constraints of machine A and B. So now we know that we have to operate inside this feasible region. So we have to find a solution within these constraints. Now what we do is we try to show the feasible region. We may be interested in going in here. We want to produce more of X, more of Y, because we are interested in more profits. But this becomes infeasible because we don't have that capacity. So we have capacity limited to this feasible region. Now within this feasible region, we have to find out which is the best point. We know intuitively that one of these corner points on this feasible region will be the best solution. In this case, the worst solution is not producing anything. That is the origin. X is equal to 0, Y is equal to 0. That is the starting point at which we start. And we go on improving the solution. So what is done in this analytical approach is we jump from origin to maybe this point here on the x-axis or this point here on the y-axis. If that solution is optimal, we'll stop there, or else we jump to the next corner point. So this search process is being done in linear programming. I'll show you graphically how it is done. This is the feasible region. What we do is, whatever optimization function is there, objective function, this, we draw a line parallel to this function. This is the line. And right now it is passing through the origin. That means I assume that we are not producing anything. That is our starting point. Now let me check whether I can demonstrate to you. From here now, we go on improving the solution. So I will try to move the objective function parallel to itself. Sorry. Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm just, sorry. I'm just moving that objective function line. You can see that it has now come to this point on the x-axis. It is passing through the point 2, 0. That means we are producing only x. We are not producing anything of y. In that case, this is also one of the feasible points. So what is the profit we'll get at this point? Our profit is z is equal to 10x plus 30y. In this case, y is 0. So it is 10 into 2, which is 20 rupees. We'll get a profit of 20 rupees here. Now, we'll try and see whether it can be further improved. So we'll keep on moving. We have come to a point here where it says some units of X we are producing and some units of Y we are producing. If we get those and calculate with the help of Z, we'll find some other solution which is a little better than what we had done earlier possibly. But if we just continue further, then now the objective function line is passing through 0, 2. It is passing through the y-axis here, 0, 2. That means we are producing only y, we are not producing x. Substitute value of y here, y is 2. So x is equal to 0, y is equal to 2. So our profit is 30 into 2, which is 60 rupees. Earlier it was 20 here. Now it is 60, it has improved. Now this is the best solution because on the feasible region, we have got to the extreme. If we go any further, it might appear that profit is increasing, but these are infeasible. That means constraints will not permit us to produce that much. So this is a graphical approach wherein say we are trying to optimize our solutions. This is also an optimization technique, which is called as linear programming. Same thing can be done with simplex method. Whatever I demonstrated to you, same thing can be done with simplex method. So what we do is whatever constraints are given and the objective function, they are put here. These constraints are seen here in the body. And we can see what are the profits which are available here. And the constraints are available on the right hand side here. And the profits per unit are shown here. With the help of which initially we are assuming that x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 0. So we are starting with the origin. And then we find that if X comes to the basis, we'll be able to improve the solution by 10 rupees per unit. If Y enters the basis, we'll be able to improve the solution by 30 rupees per unit. So this is the best. So we'll ask Y to enter the basis. So we'll say that we want to produce X, Y, not X. So with that, we'll go to the next table. What I've shown you just now is the first table of simplex. We get into the second table here. And now we find that 30 units of Y we are producing. And with that new table, whatever we have generated, we'll find that if X now we want to produce something of X, we'll be losing 10 rupees per unit. Minus 10, indicating that if we produce something of X, we'll be losing 10 rupees per unit. Y is already there in the basis, so there is no change, and other things are negative. Since all these are negative, we declare that optimal solution is reached, and we say that the profit corresponding to that is 60 rupees. So whatever we have done graphically here, the same thing is shown analytically here with simplex method. So coming back to your responses, what I have tried to demonstrate here is real life situations. If you can model them into mathematical model, wherein the objective function is linear as well as the constraints are linear, then we can have a closed bound solution. We can either go for graphical method or we can go for simplex method. Both will give us the optimal solution. Any comments from the participants? Am I reaching you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now, the beauty of this is we are able to get the best. That is the beauty of it. Problem with this is these may be oversimplified models. So in reality, maybe our objective function may not be linear, or all the constraints may not be linear. In such cases, this method will not be able to do. So we'll not be able to use this kind of model. So in this situation, I'll just show you what model we are using. Again and again, I'll be referring to this model. So we are referring to some mathematical models. We are not getting into physical models. We are talking about mathematical models because we are talking about industrial engineering here. And then the static approach as well as dynamic approach, we are trying to go for analytical solutions. In this case, when analytical model is not available, this straight, we go for numerical solutions. So we go on iterative procedures. Right now we had used some iterative procedure. So in single step we could not get. We started with origin. Then we iterated for improvement in solution. And then finally we reached the best solution. So here in just 2 steps we could get it. Sometimes we may have to get into number of steps to get the best solution. So with these comments, let me take a stock of the time because we'll not be able to complete everything that we have planned. It is 10:45. So what I'll do is I'll show you some more. This is another area wherein say we are required to approach it in operations management. You'll find that we come across projects which we have to handle, and in doing so, different people will handle it differently. All the same, there are some underlying principles which we follow. I'll tell you some approaches which are useful in handling projects effectively. So whenever we talk about project management, we get into 2 situations. One is the deterministic situation, and in such cases we go for critical path method. When activities are not deterministic, they are probabilistic, then we go for program evaluation and review technique, or project evaluation and review technique, PERT. And then we use planning and scheduling by using Gantt charts. So I'll demonstrate that with the help of some simple example, and I'll quickly go through, only focus on the component which is of interest to us. So first we define the project, then list out the activities in that project, then determine the dependencies, and draw the network, and create the forward pass to get the project duration. So I'll demonstrate that with some example here. Don't get into all the details of what are demonstrated here, but basically we are talking about replacement of air conditioning plant here. So whatever plant we are having as of now, it has become old and we want to replace it. For that, there are certain set of activities. So these are the activities from A to H, like we order a new plant and prepare site for installation, and that way. So don't have to go critically into all the steps, these things here, descriptions of activities. What is important is we list out all the activities which go into that project. So this is the first thing we do. Once the activities are listed, these activities may not be sequential. Some activities may be sequential, some activities can go parallel. So what we do is we see whether A and B are related to each other, or whether C depends on A. So the predecessors or the interdependencies that we put here. So what we do is we have put the predecessors. What this is indicating is A, B, and C don't have any predecessors. They can start straight away. But for D to start, A has to be completed. So unless A is complete, we cannot start with D. Similarly, unless B, D, and E are complete, we cannot start with G. So those are the predecessors what we have put. And then if we want to carry on with finding out how much time the project takes, then we'll require duration of each activity. So how much time A takes is written here. So A is taking this A, that is ordering a new plant, will take 6 weeks. Similarly, this particular thing, remove old plant, is going to take 3 weeks, and so on. So this is the data what we have to collect if we want to carry on with using network techniques for managing our project. Now once this is done, we convert this particular information into a network model. I'm converting this into network model. So this is a network model. So activity A, B, C, they can start straight away. F can start only when A is complete. D can start only when A is complete. Similarly, G can start only when D, B, and E are complete. So all these informations which were available to us here, the predecessors, those we have utilized to convert this model into a graphic model which is available here. Once this is available, we get a clear view of what the project looks like, what are the activities involved. And once we consider the activity durations here, A is taking 6 weeks. Likewise, once those are considered, then we find out what are the different paths and what is the duration of each path. So maybe this path A, F, H may take us some time. Let us find out A, F, H, how much time it takes. So A is taking 6, F is taking 7, and H is taking 1. So 6 plus 7, 13 plus 1, 14. So this path AFH will take us 14 weeks. Similarly, we have to find out ADGH, then BGH, and CEGH. So all these paths we have to calculate, and it becomes tedious. So there is an approach which is given in project management. And in doing that, we carry out a forward pass. We find out early start of each activity, and we'll find out what is the duration of the project. You will find that the duration of the project is 15 weeks, or maybe 15 plus something, maybe 16. But when we carry out the forward pass, we come to know what is the project duration. Then we go for backward pass so that we understand which activities are critical and which activities are having slack. So some activities are critical, they cannot wait. Some activities may be given some extra time, they are having some slack periods. So that can be identified from this approach. And what we do is this project duration is 15 weeks. And the first activity, it is starting at time 0. It takes 6 weeks. So after 6 weeks, it will be complete. Once A is complete, F can start. So if I look at F, it can start only after A is complete. That is what is depicted here. Similarly, D can start only after A is complete. So this D, it can start only after A is complete. That is indicated by this arrow. So it will go like this. So all this project has been now reduced into bar charts, and this Gantt chart can be shared with different people. Like for example, A is your subcontractor. You can share with him this information that he is required at time 0 and he has to finish within 6 weeks. Similarly, if we talk about G will now know that he will be required only at this time, maybe about 10. So he's required after 10 weeks. Before that, he is not required. So he can do other work. And he has to finish the activity within 6 weeks. So he has to complete it by this time. So all the schedules are available in the form of Gantt chart. Another example here. You can see that the network has been constructed. Project duration is 83 weeks. And this is the critical path. The red one which is shown, that is the critical path. If a project manager is having this information with him, he becomes a powerful manager. He has insights. He can use this information for decision making. If he doesn't have this kind of information, then he doesn't have insights. He doesn't know. And then he will have to take decisions based on his experiences, past experiences. Or he'll have to consult someone and take arbitrary decisions, random decisions. And then his subordinates will start saying he is erratic. He is not erratic. His behavior is erratic mainly because he doesn't have information. Network diagram suppose he is using, he can be a powerful manager. Particularly, I'll give you examples about in Goa, we have shipbuilding industries. And we'll find that any shipbuilding industry, at a time, if you find out, then the manager is handling around 2,000 different activities. So if 2,000 activities are to be managed by that manager, and you can understand how much control he'll have over all those activities. Suppose he is converting those into models like this. He's converting that into network models, and he knows which is the critical path. So out of the 2,000 activities, maybe a critical path will have around 10, 15 activities. So if he is able to monitor them very closely, then he'll be able to complete the completion of the vessel will be in time. So it is very critical about completion of those vessels because they are interacting with international parties and they have penalty clauses which go to crores of rupees. So if they are not able to meet the targets, then it's a question of survival. So in such cases, if people go on with their traditional skills, their experiences, then they will not be able to reach the targets, or else they will have to put in too much of extra efforts and resources to achieve those targets. Instead, suppose they have this kind of modular approach, this kind of approach, in that case, they can be in command of the situation and they will not give wrong commitments to the customers. In this case, this person knows that he will be able to complete the project in 83 weeks because he has this. If he doesn't have this, Hello.
Hello, sir.
Now audible, sir.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Audible.
yeah. Was I disconnected for some?
Yes,
Was I
sir.
disconnected for some time?
Yes, sir.
No.
No,
Did I
now it is
convey
okay,
to
sir.
you?
Now everything is
Yeah.
fine, sir.
Did I convey? Yeah. Did I convey to you the network diagram problem, or I have to
Yes,
repeat?
sir. Last part, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Last
So now, for how much time it was lost? Around 1 or 2 minutes?
1 minute, sir. Less than a minute.
Less than a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to convey to you is, if this is the model what we are using, then the manager is in command. For example, now suppose there is a director who has called a manager and is asking him saying that this particular ship has to be delivered in 70 weeks. And we have a penalty clause of 1 crore rupees per week if it is getting delayed. They are interacting with international parties. Now the manager, what kind of commitment should he give? So he is having no idea regarding what exactly is the time which is required. By his experience, he knows that it will take around 80 weeks. Suppose he says we'll take 80 weeks, then the director doesn't like it. So in this case, he is in 2 minds. He doesn't know what answer to give. In that case, he may give an answer which is looking good to the director, but he may land up in trouble later on, and he may have to pump in too much of resources, too much manpower, too many machines which are required for completing it in time. Project may end up becoming very costly. So if you are using this particular model, then you have a clear idea regarding what is the normal time which will be required, and accordingly you can take clear decisions. Similarly, when you are taking decisions about individuals, like for example, this particular subcontractor K, suppose he is requesting for some leave or something like that initially, and you may tend to tell him saying that it is an important project and he is required. But actually, if you look, he is required only after 43 weeks here. So this kind of information will be available to the project manager if he is going through the network diagram. Similarly, you'll find out this activity D. He is having early start of 36 and late start of 41. That means he is having a slack of 5 weeks. So extra 5 weeks are available for this. So the project manager doesn't have to concentrate on this. He can concentrate on critical activities. So when a project manager is handling around 2000 activities, it will become very difficult for him to manage the project. Instead, he knows which are the critical activities. And at any point of time, those 1 or 2 activities which are critically concentrate. Suppose he is at the start of the project, he knows that activity B he has to concentrate. So his burden is reduced. He doesn't have to concentrate too much on A because it is having slack of 5 weeks. So once this information is known, he can relax and he can focus on exact thing which is required to be focused. Otherwise, he goes by his experience or he lands up into firefighting. So this tool is a very powerful tool in operation management which can be used. So what we have done is real life situations we have converted into some mathematical data collection, and we have converted that into a network diagram, and the network diagram is used for monitoring the project, for planning, scheduling, and monitoring of the project. So in this situation, maybe any participant, comment from participant, whether you feel that the model is useful or it is having some limitations, or the approach you want to comment. Yeah, some useful comments are there. And somebody is saying longest path is the critical path, right? Somebody is asking what is slack time. So we'll not be able to get into all the details there. But since this is an important concept, I'll just explain to you. in this particular case, you can see this particular activity B, its early start is 0 and late start is 0. That means it doesn't have any extra time what he can relax for. He has to start it at time 0. He has to finish it at time 4. Otherwise, activity C will get delayed. And that will eventually result into delaying of your project by that much time. So instead of 83, it will take 84 weeks. But let us see what happens with A. A has to start at time 0, suppose. Instead, suppose it starts at time 1 week. Then this will go from 36 to 37. And actually, when we reach here, instead of 36 plus 2, 38, it will become 39. There is no problem because we have time up to 43 years. Even if it is completing earlier, this J is not completing up to 43 weeks. So even if he completes fast, it doesn't actually matter. He is having this 41 minus 6 is equal to 5 weeks which are extra. So he can that much extra time is available for him, which is called as slack. So this information is available to the manager who is working with it, and that is why he is in command. He knows where to concentrate. He knows where to put the effort. He knows where to concentrate his resources. So by chance, suppose this D is demanding certain things, he may neglect it. But if there is an attention which C is seeking, he'll have to rush there. So certain resources from D he may have to divert to C to get C completed in time. So in the process, if D is getting delayed, it doesn't matter to him. So this kind of information are available with this network diagram if he gets an insight into this kind of thing. Yes, having said that, my question was, are there any limitations to this model? Since we are talking about optimization models, sometimes the solution may look very powerful, but in reality, what might happen is there may be a gap between the reality and the model what we are using. Anybody wants to comment on this? Okay, I'll come back to this. In real life, what happens is we have assumed that A will be completed in 36 weeks. Now, what is the guarantee that it will be completed in 36 weeks? Sometimes it may be completed in 34 weeks only, or it might require 37 weeks. So the activities may not be deterministic in nature. They may be probabilistic. So as long as A is taking extra time, it will not matter much. But if B is taking extra time, it will delay your project. So in such cases, depending on deterministic model may be risky because you are giving commitments for very important situations. Okay, these are the bar charts for monitoring. We get into something called as PERT, which is probabilistic time estimates. So what we do in such is, for example, if we are talking about activity A, then there are 3 time estimates which are given for activity A. We say that minimum time required is 1, optimistic time is 1 week. And pessimistic time, if everything goes wrong, pessimistic time will be 4 weeks. And the most likely time is 3 weeks. So what we have done is, about activity A, we have given 3 time estimates. Optimistic time estimate 1, pessimistic time estimate of 4, and most likely time of 3. So we are having 3 time estimates what we have collected. Now, if you want to solve the model with 3 time estimates, it is not possible. Because CPM, if you have to use critical path method, we can tackle only 1 time estimate for an activity. So we'll have to convert this into a single time estimate. We convert this into a single time estimate, which is called as expected time, for which this is the formula which is used, assuming it is a beta distribution. So it's most likely is likely to happen more times. We are giving 4 weights to it. And these extremes of optimistic and pessimistic, we are giving single weight each. So we are assuming that if 6 times that activity is done, once it will be done by optimistic time, once in pessimistic time, and 4 times with most likely time. A crude statement I'm making. But with that, if we calculate expected time, we will get a single value, which is 2.83 for estimate for activity duration for A. Similarly, we calculate for other activities. and then find out what is the duration of path ABC. It is coming out as 10. But since we are using probabilistic estimates, we'll not say it will take 10 weeks, but we'll say that it is an estimate, which is 50% chance of getting completed in 10 weeks. Similarly, other paths also we find out. And based on this approach, we can find out what is the expected duration of the project. At the same time, we are also saying what is the probability of completing that in those many weeks. So let us try to see probability completion. So what we do now is activity A we have considered, expected time. This is optimistic time and pessimistic time we are considering. So based on these two extremes, we are finding out what is the variance of this activity. This variance is difference of TP and TO squared divided by 36. So this is the variance of that activity. So we find out sigma squared for that activity, and then the path ABC which is there. For that we add these variances, and this is the variance of that path. Based on the variance of the path, we can find out standard deviation of the path. Standard deviation is 0.97. Similarly, the other path which is there, DEF, I'll show you the construction. These are the three paths we have considered: A, B, C, DEF, and GHI. So variance of each path we are considering now. We'll find that this path, top path which is there, ABC, it is critical because it's having standard deviation of 0.97. DEF, it is having more deviation. It's more critical here. It's like say 1. And GHI is having a standard deviation of 1.07. With that now, we can estimate what is the probability of completion of assuming distribution. We can estimate what is the probability of completing a particular project in given time. For example, this particular project, if we want to find out what is the probability of completing that project in 17 weeks, then we can say that 100%. We will be able to complete it almost 100%. But that is a top path, ABC. Middle path, if we try to see, probability of completion is 0.8, 80% chances. And the bottom path, if we see, probability of completion is 1. Now, all the three paths have to be completed to complete the project. So we multiply these probabilities, 1 into 0.8 into 1. That will give us around 84% chances of completing the project in 17 weeks. So now this particular approach gives us how much risk we want to take. So the manager, suppose the director tells him saying that we want to complete the project in 17 weeks. Then he will say we can try, and it's around 84% chances of completion. And director may say no, it's like say 84% we want to have 100% guarantee. Then the manager will say 100% guarantee is difficult, but we can get say 95% guarantee or something like that, for which how much time is required instead of 17 weeks, whether it is 19 weeks, that can be worked out. So this particular approach, you'll find that it will take you closer to the reality. Coming back, any responses? We took two approaches. One was CPM, critical path method, which was deterministic approach. Now we are taking PERT approach, program evaluation and review technique, which is considering probabilistic estimates for time activity durations. With that, the model is becoming a little complex, but we are able to come out with some probability of completion. We are saying that yes, it is going to take so many weeks, but there we are saying we are not 100% sure. Some reasonable level of confidence we have to show. We can decide what is the level of confidence, say 90% confidence, 95% confidence, and based on that, some risk we'll have to take. Now on this, although I have made a statement saying that some risk we have to take, I will modify that statement after I interact with you. So whether maybe I have reached you, whether you understood the model, and what comment you want to make regarding CPM and PERT, deterministic approach and probabilistic approach. Anybody wants to offer the comments, participants? Hello? Hello, am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir. Audible.
Okay. Okay. So now what happens is, although we said that, okay, probability of completion is not 100%, but now what we do is, whenever there is a chance of a risk-like situation, we pump in extra resource and somehow complete that activity in time so that we take care of it. These are practical aspects of the model what we have generated. I'm getting into little more details of specific models so that now when we are getting into optimization techniques, they may give you superb solutions on paper. But in real life, we'll have to supplement it with efforts. So in this case, if the project is not getting completed in time, in that case, we'll have to, the manager's role will come into play there. Only planning is not enough, execution is important. So he will walk in there and he will help. Wherever help is required, he'll give extra manpower, he'll give extra resources, extra machinery, and complete it in time. His job is to complete, not give reasons. So he will ultimately probabilistic approach this, that everything is okay on paper. But when it is executed, that time the operation manager, he will play a vital role in getting the things completed in time. So I think, say, when we are talking about various models, I have shown you some models what we are using. In this particular case, I'll get into simulation model here. Whatever example we have discussed, sometimes those optimistic time, pessimistic time, all those things we have mentioned. But in reality, what will happen is there'll be fuzzy things there. How much time and activity will take, it will not be very clear. Sometimes we may feel it is short time, sometimes it is long time, sometimes moderate time. In that case, you are not able to give specific times for certain activities. In such cases, you may have to go for simulation. So we'll have to generate random numbers for each activity. What is the mean time? What is the parameter associated with it? What is the distribution? That can be identified for each activity. And we can model it for simulation. For example, now, whatever we have shown here, here we have said that A is taking 36 weeks. But in reality, it may not be 36. We can model that with normal distribution with mean of 36 with standard deviation of maybe 1 week. So in that case, we know that, okay, it can be plus or minus 3 weeks, it can change. That means it can go from 33 weeks to 39 weeks. So we have modeled that with some distribution, and those distributions can be used for generating random numbers for that particular activity. Every time it may change. Sometimes it may be 33, sometimes 36, sometimes 37. So simulation can be done, and we can simulate the model with the help of simulators, and then find out what is the most likely time which comes in with simulations. So we can use simulation approaches, like fuzzy approach can be used, and various types of approaches what have been mentioned in your curriculum. Those can be used for handling this kind of projects. So on this now, since we are coming close to last phase of our project presentation, I would like to get into, quickly go through different areas of operations management. Quickly give you an overview of what are the different models which are used in operation management. Generally, we start with demand forecasting, wherein these judgmental models are there, and we get into time series models, wherein we use linear regression, the model, and various models are there. The simplest model is this, that we collect the data, and based on the data what we collect, we just try to see for various periods from 1 to 10 periods, we have collected demand. You can see in the first period demand was 100, that is 120, 125. Like we'll find that it is continuously increasing. Now we can check whether it can fit into linear model and try to fit a straight line into this particular data and check what is the data error which is coming in. If there is error which is within limits, then we can continue with this linear model, which is called as linear regression. And this model again will have certain problems associated with it. It can lead to some error. We fit in least square line. That is our model. And that we try to optimize. So we find out what is the error there. So various degrees of error we can find out, like mean absolute deviation, mean squared error, mean percentage absolute error. So the area of our interest, we can decide what kind of error we want to get into. If it is satisfying that error levels, then we can continue with the assumption that linear regression is existing, straight line. Otherwise, we may have to fit in non-linear curve. So nowadays, softwares which are available, MATLAB can easily give you non-linear curve fitment also, or even spreadsheets can give you fitment of non-linear fitments, with the help of which the accuracy may be improved. I'll quickly go through this. Similarly, about facility location, the basic models what we use are center of gravity, factor rating method, and break-even analysis. So in center of gravity, you'll find that these black dots are indicating suppliers, and we have a challenge of deciding where we want to position our plant. So now from this dot, the distance is important. From this dot, the distance is important. So we have to place it in such a way that our total transportation costs are minimized. In that case, we can go for center of gravity model. There again, there are associated problems. Now, because of time constraints, we'll not be able to discuss all this. I'll just take a call from the department and come back. Vinay, call चालू sir, session presentation चालू sir. Okay. Yeah. So similarly, factor rating method, we are in this particular case, the first one we are considering only a single factor, the distance or the cost of transportation. But sometimes there may be a large number of factors in which we are interested. Then we decide about the weights of the factors. Like for example, the nearness to the supplier, or maybe the availability of skilled manpower, or the cost associated with land and building. These may be various factors. We give weights to them and find out the weighted scores. And with the help of cumulative weighted scores, here the cumulative weighted scores, the option which is giving you the best opportunity is selected. So this is a selection type of process. And in such cases, wherever selection and other things are involved and multiple criteria are involved, you can get into multi-criteria decision making. So a lot of approaches are available in multi-criteria decision making, like TOPSIS is available, AHP is available, and we can get into fuzzy approaches. For facility location, we can go into branch and bound technique, tabu search, we can get into ant colony optimization, or simulated engineering, or genetic algorithm. So a lot of optimization techniques which are a part of your curriculum, which will be discussed in those 5 days. So suitable technique can be used. Similarly, we get into break-even analysis. So whenever two options are available, here in this case, option A and option B are under consideration. So we'll find that option, this is a fixed cost, the horizontal line is indicating fixed cost, and the variable line, if we add to it, this is the total cost line for option A. And we'll find that option B, it is having higher fixed cost, and total cost line for B is here. So I'll spend a minute on this. You can see there are two options, option A and B. If we look at fixed cost here for option A, black one, it is less as compared to fixed cost for option B. But if we plot the total cost line, because variable cost is less for option B, although the fixed cost is high, you'll find that after this particular point, option B is having less total cost. This is the total cost. So we'll find that total cost is less for B after this point. So if we are producing more than Q star, option B is better than option A. If we are producing less than Q star, then option A is better as compared to option B. So we are making a decision based on this. So choose option A if Q is less than Q star. Option B if Q is greater than Q star. Then when you get into plant layouts, it depends upon the type of process what we are using, job shop, batch, repetitive, continuous, or project. So if it is continuous production, we may go into line balancing. or product layout we may go for. And if variety is involved, we may go into job shop type of approach, which is process layout. So depending upon the type of production, we can go for product layout, process layout, fixed position layout, or cellular layout. Fixed position layouts like, for example, shipbuilding industry when the product cannot move. Process layout when is variety is to be handled. Product layout for mass production type of thing. And we can go for cellular manufacturing wherever we have some variety which has to be handled like product layout. Advantage we want to take. And whenever we have lines like this, continuous production is being done. We are not only interested in getting the product out, we are interested in balancing the line so that line efficiency is improved. So in such cases, we go for heuristics. Whenever we are talking about optimization, we'll come across heuristics. These are some guidelines. They may not ensure best solution, but they'll give you a solution which is close to, it'll be a good solution. It'll be close to optimal. In that case, some guidelines are given in the form of heuristics. For example, when we are using line balancing. So these are the activities to be completed, just like in project management. So we are trying to club certain activities together to make workstation. In this case, based on our cycle time and the target output, we can find out what is the cycle time and then club these activities together. A and B can be performed in the same workstation. Similarly, workstation 2 can combine activities C, D, and E. And workstation 3 can combine activity F and G. So we have 3 workstations here. We can find out the efficiency of the line. And we can try to improve the efficiency by combining differently, or maybe breaking certain activities and passing on certain load to other workstation. But we can do it that way. So in such cases also, in this model, we are assuming fixed time estimates. If probabilistic time estimates are considered, we can go into the fuzzy logic and those kind of techniques. Linear programming, I think we have discussed these. Inventory management also, since we have discussed it, I'll quickly go ahead. And normally when we are taking decisions in operation management, we'll have long-term decisions like plant layout or the product to be manufactured. Those kind of decisions are taken at the top level, which are strategic decisions, which are long-range plans. And then we have to have plans for day-to-day functioning for actual manufacturing and things, which are short-range plans. Intermediately, when we plan for around 3 to 4 months or maybe 2 to 3 months, that is called as aggregate plan, for which we need to know our capacity options. So whenever we are having business plans, which are strategic in nature, and we are having production plans, which are to be executed immediately, in between aggregate plan is there, which keeps on transiting. We keep on changing it. We review it after every maybe some period, and then change the plan as per the requirements. So I'll quickly go through the requirements of the capacity options in aggregate plan. So regular capacity, inventories, overtime, part-time, subcontracting, hiring and layoff workers. So these are the capacity options what we have, which have to be judiciously used. And generally we go for some models like transportation model in case of aggregate planning. So various approaches are used. We go for disaggregation and master schedule there. And one before I close, I'll try to give some time to sequencing and scheduling here. Like for example, if there is a petrol pump, then the customers will come and they'll be served first come first serve basis. Whoever comes first will be served. In industry, it may not be like that. We may have a choice of deciding which job should be done first. So there are peculiar situations of job shop situation. In this case, we are having 6 jobs A to F, which are there in front of 2 machines, machine 1 and machine 2. And the requirement here is every job has to go through machine 1 first and then through machine 2. In such cases, are we having a model which can minimize our total processing time, total make span time, total time in which all these 6 jobs are completed, that we want to optimize. In such cases, Johnson has given one algorithm. So I wanted to explain to you what are the concepts of algorithm here. Now due to lack of time, but he has given an algorithm here. And what he says is, I'll tell you saying that out of all these processing times, you find out the minimum time. In this case, minimum time is 2. If that time is on machine 1 here, so we are assigning this time job D first. So D is assigned first. Now let us see what is after 2. After 2 it is 3. This 3 is on machine 2. So the corresponding job, which is B, is assigned last. So B is assigned last. So that way, if we go on assigning by this particular rule which is given, then Johnson claims that, which has been proved, that the make span time is minimum. The total time can be minimized. So these are optimum solutions which are available. This again, assuming that the time frames what we have estimated here are deterministic. If they are fixed, then only this will result. In reality, it may be different. Now, when there are 3 work centers instead of 2, 1 and 2, Johnson's algorithm is designed for 2 machine problem. Whenever there are 3 machines also, it can be converted into 2 virtual machines. So 16 plus 7 can be considered as 1. It is 23. 23 comes in first machine, and 7 plus 8, 15 comes as second machine. So likewise, we can convert the data into 2 machine problem and then apply the same Johnson's algorithm there for optimal solutions. Project management, I think so we have discussed this. We are running short of time, but still I would like to. These are various techniques which are used, various techniques which are available for the OPM problems what we have discussed here. These are various OPM problems what we have discussed and the related techniques which are available. It's going out of time, so I'll have to conclude. But I'll just flash to you what are the other opportunities. Coming back to this, I'll just these are the areas in our curriculum which will be discussed in 5 days. But there you'll find that Monte Carlo simulation will be used. It discusses the problems about uncertainty of prediction. So risk is there. Like for example, in case of gambling, whenever somebody wants to gamble on a particular card, he wants to know what is the risk he is taking. So Monte Carlo simulation can be used for assessing the risk in terms of uncertainty, whenever there is uncertainty. Similarly, whenever we have considered situations wherein there is only one objective function and certain criteria what will be affecting that. So whenever there are multiple criteria which are available and those criteria are conflicting in nature, in such cases multi-criteria decision making can be used. There are things like AHP, TOPSIS, and physiologic. This is growing very fast. Quality function deployment, I think say that will be done, but it's like say basically we are having focus on the customer here and we are converting the customer requirements into the engineering specifications, and then we can try to improve upon the design of existing product. Similarly, about fuzzy AHP, whenever the input data what we are having, they are not precise, they are vague. As I said in activity durations, we are assuming certain fixed values, but actually they may not be precise, they may be imprecise. In such cases, fuzzy logic can be used, fuzzy numbers can be generated. There are certain search heuristics. These heuristics, they may not give you the optimal solution, but they'll give you a very good solution which is very close to optimal. So in this case, genetic algorithm can be used. And in genetic algorithm, out of whatever choices are available, you are choosing the fittest individual to select the select for reproduction. That kind of philosophy it is used, which is some learning from Darwin's theory of natural evolution. About heuristics, these are iterative procedures. They may not give you the best solution, but they'll give you solutions which are close to best. Meta heuristic, actually, these are generic approaches which will not know about the actual problem we are handling, but they will use different heuristics and give you good solutions. So these are some techniques for optimization: genetic algorithm, particle swarm optimization, and colony optimization. You'll find that for all these solutions, we are learning from nature. We are learning from ants, we are learning from beehives, or we are learning from the neural networks of human beings, or from the nature we are learning, and those we are putting into simulation models. Similarly, artificial neural networks, some mathematical modeling. I think we'll have to conclude because it's time. Thank you very much for patient listening. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Audible.
Any questions? Any questions? I think it is time out, but one or two questions, if the organizers permit.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good morning, sir. One question is that in this session, we had gone for this initially in inventory control system and the EOQ models, and how whether this inventory control can be applied for this soft computing to make it optimization, because nowadays we are going for smart manufacturing, so every time we are using all type of sensors, and for this, how this inventory control can be done with some types of sensors and with the help of these new techniques.
No, generally what would happen in this case is, like we said, yes, rightly said that we are having some old techniques here. But these old techniques what we are having will provide us as to the fundamental basis for understanding the model. We are generating the model.
Yeah.
Now, when we are tackling that model, our old techniques, what we are doing, yes, those deterministic models, they may give us solutions which are not very close to the reality.
Okay.
So, on such cases, we have to use technical computing. Nowadays, computer is available easily. So, we have to get into technical computing, for which we need to have some knowledge about the modeling techniques. We need to know statistics very well. For example, now when in this particular case, suppose we are having estimates for time estimates for a particular activity or a lead time. So the lead time we are saying it is 1 week. But based on past experience, we know that it is not exactly 1 week. Sometimes it is more, sometimes it is less. I think you will agree. In that case, we have to collect the past data and find out what is the appropriate distribution which fits into that particular lead time.
Okay.
So if you are able to model it that way, then the model can be approved by technical computing.
But nowadays, it is not focused to this mass production. It is a customer production nowadays. We are going for the manufacturing sectors where the life period of a product is very short, and rapidly based upon the customer's likeness, the changes of the product is very fast. So how to keep this inventory or the raw material for changing concept, because once it change means your raw material will be again changed. So how it will be controlled, this inventory so that we can invest less amount in raw material and more in the flexibility?
In this case, what happens is we are shifting from inventory control to inventory management to supply chain management. So earlier the concept was about controlling your own inventories. Now it has not remained like that. Since you want to have flexibility, what you do is your supplier also try to bring in into your system concept. You are considering your supplier also as a part of your own system, and we are talking about supply chain management now. And then he is maintaining your inventories. He is catering to so many other requirements also. So it doesn't burden him. And then he can meet your requirements as and when they change. Whenever your requirements are changing, it is not wise to keep too much of inventory with yourself. Instead, you develop your suppliers in such a way that they are able to take the burden of the shocks which are coming in your inventory requirements. So in this case, the models of supply chain management are used, where you are trying to optimize your total cost, not your cost of the system, supply chain. Ultimately, the customer will have a burden of the entire supply chain. It is not only your cost. So if you are bringing in your supplier and make him a part of your supply chain, then this problem can be addressed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I think Sridhar sir, if there are no questions, then over to you. I'll take the opportunity to thank the coordinators of this program and Chhatrapati Shivaji Institute. It's like, say, because of you, I could interact with these people, although virtually. I'm not able to see the faces of these people, but I've spoken to them and they have listened to me for 1.5 hours. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for your valuable sessions.
Thank you.
Your lecture enlightened us to get the brief outcome about the modules of operations management area and how we can go for application of optimization techniques in different areas. You have briefed out in this 90-minute session. Thank you very much, sir.
Now it is COVID time, but I'll invite you all to Goa. So Professor Sridhar will share my number with you. Anytime you have plans to come to Goa, I'll not invite you right now since it is COVID situation. But anytime you plan to come to Goa, it's a good tourist destination. You are welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is it possible to request these people to put on their videos so that I can see the band of participants? Yeah, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Also, Dr. Sahu from Odisha.
I think Professor Sridhar, you can share my email ID with them.
Sure, sir. I will share.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think there are people from different states. Somebody just introduced from Odisha. Maybe at least one from different states.
Sir, I am from Mysore, Vadivel.
Okay.
From NIE College.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Good morning. I'm
Good morning.
from college, assistant professor in Department of Industrial and Production Engineering. Thank you for your presentation. It's enlightening us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.